I spent $2,000 on backpacking gear. Half of it made my trips worse. After over 100 backpacking trips, including the Sierras, the Mojave, and the Canadian Rockies, I can tell you I would not rebuild my gear kit the same way. And honestly, that's a good thing. This video breaks down how I'd start over with my gear, what failed, what actually held up, and why my earlier choices made backpacking harder than it needed to be. Most folks either go cheap and suffer or go premium and still end up uncomfortable. I did both, and it took 4 full gear overhauls to figure out what really matters out there. Here's how to skip the regret phase and build a kit that fits you, not someone's checklist. So if I had to undo one thing from my early backpacking days, it'd be buying a complete backpacking kit all at once. I bought a full-on budget setup. My buddy loaned me a pack. I bought a heavy mummy bag and a cheap foam pad. And yeah, it looked like I was ready for anything, but the second I hit the trail, I realized that most of it was basically dead weight. My bag was rated for 0 degrees, and I wasn't even hiking in cold enough temps to justify that bag rating. My pack was massive, and it just held more stuff that I didn't need. I threw in gear that didn't match how I even hike. I brought a hatchet like I'd be chopping firewood or something. I mean, early on, it's easy to pack for the wrong adventure. Now, I build backwards. I start with the core 3, my pack, shelter, and sleep system. Then I slowly build out the rest of my kit as I learned what worked and what didn't out on the trail and as my budget could afford. That initial mistake of buying all of my backpacking gear at once cost me hundreds of dollars and, more importantly, miles of discomfort on the trail with the wrong gear. And if you want more real-world gear lessons, packing strategies, and stuff that's actually been tested out on dozens of solo trips, consider subscribing. I put out videos every week on all things backpacking. So the first time I tried to go ultralight, I thought I had made it. My spreadsheet looked beautiful, my base weight finally cracked that 10 pounds, and I even bragged about it on a group trip once. But by the second night, I was curled up on my paper-thin foam pad with a stove that barely worked, wondering why I was so cold and hungry. That little budget titanium stove, the one you see all over Reddit, failed on trip 1. The ultralight pillow I heard everybody talking about on YouTube, it developed a slow leak halfway through a 3-day trip. All this saved me what? A few ounces? Now I'll happily carry a Helinox Chair Zero or a full-size inflatable pad even if it adds weight. For me, sitting comfortably, sleeping well, and actually enjoying camp, that's the stuff that keeps me going back out there. But if I had to rebuild from scratch, I'd ask myself one question for every piece of gear. How will this feel after 20 miles? Not how light does this look online? All right, so I get why people do this. You open YouTube, you Google starter backpacking kit, and you find some influencer's full setup for 350 bucks. It looks clean. You can add it to cart in 5 minutes, and I did. Full budget kit. I felt pretty clever until my first trip. That $1 plastic spork snapped. My tent stakes blown all over the campsite after the first windy night because I used the ones that came with my tent. And my insulated foam pad, let's just say it taught me how to shiver strategically. I ended up replacing most of that gear within the year. And not because I chose to, but because I kinda had to. And that's the real cost. It's not just the money, it's the bad nights, the gear failures, the trips that feel like survival scenarios instead of something you wanna do again. If I could redo it, I'd budget around my comfort floor: warmness, dryness, and recovery. That means a reliable pad, a proven bag or quilt, and a shelter that doesn't fold under pressure. Rent or borrow the rest if you need to. I thought I was saving money, but after replacing half of that kit, I realized that cheap isn't cheap if it makes you miserable. So when I bought my second backpack, I walked into REI, they measured my torso and told me I was a size small because I have long legs and a short torso. But I'm 6'2". I raised an eyebrow. They said, "Yep, your size is small." according to this chart. So I trusted their guidance and I bought a size small backpack. And once I got out on the trail, yeah, I felt like I was carrying like a toddler's school bag full of rocks. It turns out fit, especially with a backpack, has to feel right despite the measurements. And on trail, you will feel everything. The pack that pinches your shoulders, the sleep pad that's too narrow, the shoes that technically fit but crush your toes after the first decline. Charts don't account for that. Now, I treat every gear test like a trial run. I'll load it, I'll go out, move with it, see how my body reacts under trail conditions, not just in the store aisle. And if I had to restart, I wouldn't ask, what size am I? I'd ask, does this feel like it's working with my body or fighting it? So I've mentioned this before, but I used to pack like I was heading into a survival show, not a 3-day backpacking trip. My first setups always had some piece of gear that I wasn't carrying for the trip. I was carrying it for the story I told myself about what might go wrong. A hatchet, a backup to the backup lighter, extra base layers I never wore. I imagined cold, wet, or stranded scenarios that never actually happened and probably weren't even realistic, but I still let them shape my kit. And all that weight wasn't just a physical load, it was a mental one too. It made me second guess and overthink my packing every time. Now, I do still prepare for problems, but I do it with systems, not like stockpiles of gear. A small roll of Gorilla Tape wrapped around my trekking pole replaces 3 redundant repair items. I carry warm gloves and an insulated sit pad instead of doubling up on jackets. One extra mini Bic lighter does the job just fine. Over time, you realize that trail confidence trims the fat off your loadout. What I carry now isn't based on fear anymore, it's based on experience. So it's weird how the tiniest gear items are often the ones you regret not bringing the most. I skipped full gloves once on a summer trip because I figured, hey, it's warm. But that night, the temps tanked. Even in the summer, it can get pretty cold at night, and I sat at camp with stiff fingers, struggling to cook, and all I could think about was how a $15 pair of gloves would have changed my entire mood. Same thing with sit pads. I used to see them as a luxury or just something that's not necessary. Now, a sit pad is non-negotiable for me. Whether I'm on snow, damp ground, or just a rocky lunch spot, that little square of foam makes everything feel better. And my hip belt pouch that I made myself out of some random bag I had somewhere, it weighs nothing and it finally solved the where did I put that snack problem. These aren't the things that anyone's gonna brag about, but they're the stuff that keeps a trip flowing. I used to think my shelter or sleep system were the heroes of my gear, but more often it's the tiny stuff, the forgotten MVPs that saves a trip from slipping into survival mode. And if you're trying to avoid that gear regret spiral or just want a trip that feels smoother, lighter, and actually enjoyable, I just released the 3-day backpacking trip planner kit. It's a paid kit that bundles everything I wish I had before my first trip. Daily mileage tools, route templates, gear planning sheets, and a simple system to build a trip that actually fits you. Whether you're planning your first few trips or just tired of feeling overpacked and underprepared, it's all there, and I'll put the link down below. So ultimately, when you're out there, guys, you'll probably still make some bad calls. That's part of the backpacking learning curve, but you don't need 3 full kit overhauls like I did. Start with the stuff that really matters, listen to your body, and don't let the gear hype drown out your own logic. And if this hit close to home, this next video breaks down the gear that does deserve a spot in your kit, and I'll show you exactly what makes the cut and why. So keep dialing in your gear, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.